with paranormal topics, aliens, topics of ancient history of Egypt, reincarnation, 2012, the economy, and other various topics. It was one December night when I listened to Coast AM, where I listened to Randy Rogers, who was the guest that December day. This triggered synchronistic events that led to this book. Randy Rogers mentioned his experience with reincarnation through acupuncture that inspired me to do a book with that technique for reincarnation in this fiction story. Randy Rogers' book was called The Key of Life. Randy's book gave me a title of another book I read, which was Many Lives, Many Masters by Brian L. Weiss, MD. His book gave me a little more insight on reincarnation, and it was a major topic in this book. I'd like to thank books such as The Way of the Peaceful Warrior by Dan Millman and the Celestine Prophecy series by James Redfield. These books paved the way for books like this one. Other books I will mention, I can't mention their names. Some have been inspirational by giving me the opportunity to become who I need to become in life. Some have been people that I have not gotten along with, but they have given me determination to overcome my situation and better myself as a whole. Thank you again to these people. Without them, this book would not be possible. I'm going to take a break right now. I'm gonna pause it for a little bit. It's going live, but it's going live right now, but you know what? We're going to pause it because I need to get a drink from all that I've read, and there's still a lot more to come on this podcast. So I'm pausing it right now. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. Need to get some water. If I'm doing reading, I need water to thirst my quench, especially if I'm reading a long chapter. So now that I'm prepared, I'm going to continue. And I continued on with this poem that I wrote. And it continues on with the book, and it starts it. It's called Finding the Path. Going through the city blind, trying to find who I was, yet nobody cared. They wanted to use me for their purposes. True pain lies within, because I cared, and I was left behind. Does anybody care about how I feel? I tried to do the right thing, yet I burn inside with pain, and I'm not doing the right thing. It's time to start caring for myself. Does anybody care about my insanity? Does anybody want to know why? I was hiding from who I am, and now I will find it. This is the story of Joseph Woods before he found his path. Part 1. The Recovery. Okay, now, before I get into part 1, the recovery, and read the first chapter and then close up on this podcast, I'm going to discuss some plugs. I mentioned about the Joseph Vivaldi brand, so I'm going to mention about at Cafe Press. You go to cafepress.com/Joseph Vivaldi Creative Art. That's where you could get some good mugs, shirts, a little bit for everyone, you may ask, but it has my designs on it. It's very good. And I'm going to have more stuff coming this coming year. I'm also plugging the book, The Evolution of the Squared Circle, the production of professional wrestling. It is a book that discusses the evolution from black and white TV all the way to streaming, and I give thanks to people in the production crew and everything else that makes production possible in professional wrestling, or shall I say sports entertainment, because professional wrestling is a taboo word, so to speak, but you know what I'm getting at. That's a change, because before it was pro wrestling, now it is sports entertainment. So it developed and transformed itself, and I discuss it in that book. The production of professional wrestling, the evolution of the square circle, the production of professional wrestling. That is available on Amazon. That is available on Audible, and that is available on the Kindle. Back to the podcast. Okay, I'm back, and now I'm gonna read chapter 1 of the Soul Warrior's journey. Now that I got into the meat of the other stuff, now this is where the book begins. And here we go. It was the summer of 2002 when Joseph's turmoil escalated. Joseph at the time was a young 18 years old. He had short black hair, blue eyes, and was a slender 5'6". He read some self-help books to help him deal with his depression. He understood all the concepts, but didn't know how to apply them in his life. As a result, his social and romantic life was in a mess. He was shy when it came to he was shy when it came to women, and he would stumble on his words when he was speaking with the opposite sex. Only thing good in his life was his school education. He enjoyed watching wrestling and would order the WWE pay-per-views, in which his friends Shawn Williams and Paul Franks came over to keep him company. Shawn at that time was his best friend. He would be there for him when he needed it, and he liked the loyalty that Joseph and others showed him. Shawn would have a hot temper towards any disloyalty to him. To Paul Franks, Joseph was there to joke around with. He called him a fool at times for some of the things he did. Altogether, Joseph was a good friend to have around for Paul. That summer, Paul and Shawn were consistently competing with each other with the wrestling video games. Joseph always lost. Shawn and Paul always tried to outdo one another. They all enjoyed the competition. Joseph's problems only began when Shawn and Paul brought around their new friend Emily Dickens. She was a young 19-year-old woman with her life ahead of her. She liked to travel many times to see her favorite musician, Sting, play. She had a sparkling personality that Joseph automatically fell for. She was 5'4" and had curly brown hair and brown eyes. Her family background was from England. A gaze into her eyes would make any man go wild, and for Joseph, it only drove him crazy. Joseph was starting to wake up out of his confidence problem immediately when he met her. That summer, he wanted to be with her, but at the same time, he couldn't make his intentions known. Joseph never trusted his friends when it came to telling them who he liked and whom he was going to go after romantically. However, the guys always had a pact to say who they were going for, so there would be no problems. Joseph was a little slow to this rule, and he felt frustration along the way. All the women have turned Joseph down before in the past, but not in the matter of how Joseph was hurt. Emily had no idea how she had hurt him. Joseph thought he was starting to hit it off with Emily. They were talking and flirting with each other. This lasted for 2 weeks. Joseph was slow with relationships and missed all the signs and didn't know how to act when his friends were around. But he came out of his shell when she was around. Emily took this flirting of his and treated him as a friend. It was only until Derek Nylander entered the picture